This was a surprise one for me, and I think, Mase, this is your turn. Eric Bieniemy.
A surprise.
I want to start saying Eric Bieniemy, offensive coordinator for the Chiefs. I want to get that in there.
Offensive coordinator for the Chiefs, and obviously we know the Chiefs' offense has been successful. A key thing here for this interview is that George Paton worked with Eric Bieniemy with the Minnesota Vikings. Bieniemy was the running backs coach as Adrian Peterson got going when George Paton was there. So there is a connection here between Paton and Bieniemy. Of course, if you look at what's gone on with the Chiefs, it's been fantastic, no doubt. You got great talent. Eric Bieniemy working hand in hand with Andy Reid, the head coach, has done a good job as OC. He's not the play caller per se. Andy Reid has a lot of play calling responsibilities, although Bieniemy is involved more and more over the years. And you could see on Saturday, a lot of Saturday's play calling, Eric Bieniemy was at the forefront of that.
He's got the sheet.
He's got the sheet. He's relaying. He's the one that's in Patrick Mahomes' helmet with the calls. So they've put more on his plate. If you look at him as a Kansas City assistant, yes, very qualified to be somebody's head coach. The problem is, especially around here, we look back at his time at CU a decade ago as OC under John Embry. As you know, RK, awful lot wrong with that program, but it was kind of disastrous.
It was a tire fire.
I love that they are interviewing EB because it's someone they absolutely should. He's one of the hottest candidates, one of the best offensive minds out there. There's nothing against him with that. But then you think about leadership and everything, and this isn't just from things that you've told me, so I'm not just putting you out there, but everything I haven't heard anything about him, or I shouldn't say that. A lot of things I've heard have made me question his leadership. And if that's the number one thing George Paton is looking for, I find it hard that he's going to get the job. Now, people can change.
Yes.
Absolutely, that can happen. But just from what I've heard, when he's been in control, it's been a little bit of a interesting situation, so to say.
Yeah, and the elephant in the room here is that he's had lots of legal issues, especially in the state of Colorado. At one point, it was banned from CU's campus for a year for an assault charge that was on him. There's several things that I don't think the Broncos are going to go down that road after already hiring a former CU player who had a legal history in Boulder. It just feels like it's not going to happen. That's why I was surprised to see him on the list. With that said, people can change, and all of that stuff was a long time ago, but there's a lot of similarities there to obviously a very recent failed head coach hire in Vance Joseph. And like you said, he's not necessarily one of those people who is lauded for his leadership.
Right. And sorry.
And I will say a lot of his running backs in the NFL, I think would tell you they loved him. I think a lot of his players at CU would tell you they had their issues.
And that's when he had the most responsibility, the most players under his watch. Because in Kansas City, even as OC, you've got Mike Kafka, is also the pass game coordinator as well, who's kind of also working hand in hand with him too.
This shouldn't be held against him,
Yeah.
But one thing is he's got a lot of interviews and no jobs. You wonder why.
Yep, for sure.
Happened to Tony Dungy, though, a long time ago.
Yeah, exactly.
He interviewed for a decade. Nobody hired him. He became a Hall of Fame head coach.
I'm not saying that you should hold that against him. It's just an interesting question.
Vic Fangio, another guy who got a lot of interviews and not a lot of jobs.
Yeah.